Welcome, Solar here. I hope you guys are doing well. It is Friday, May 9th, as I sit down to do this message. It's been streaming through for me over the past few days, and so I'm ready to sit down and see what comes out and what needs to be discussed. Before I get into that, I want to take a moment to welcome you. Welcome if you're visiting for the very first time. Welcome if you are returning, whether you subscribe or not, whether you've been here from the beginning or you joined somewhere along the way, or you literally just entered into my sphere through the last video. It's lovely to have you here. I hope you guys are all doing well because the energies right now are high. And for my fellow Scorpio placements, Scorpio and Taurus placements, or just fixed signs in general, it's crunk. Right, so let's talk about it a little bit. Before I get into that, I do want to make a quick announcement concerning decrees. So you guys may have noticed if you frequent my community boards or you are over on SOLARAH'S, you may have noticed that I've been cranking out a lot of decrees. And at first, some of them were requests that you guys made, and so I got around to doing them. The channel came through quite smoothly for some of those. But then I was just waking up in the morning with these words and I was writing them down. And oftentimes the way I work with decrees is I'm doing them for myself and then I transfer them into writing for the collective picture oftentimes. And sometimes I do decrees just for the collective. Like I said, two of them were requests. The Destiny Swap Reversal and the Charging for Spiritual Crimes were from two of you in this YouTube collective that requested. So thank you for that suggestion, for those suggestions. But what I came to realize on the 5/5 portal on Monday was the reason I feel like I've been being called to do all of these decrees is because of where we are energetically. We are a couple of days out from the full moon in Scorpio. And every year in Taurus season, we go through a grand timeline split that has been becoming all the more obvious through these years of ascension. And this year, every year it peaks a little bit more. And so as such, this year we're feeling it a little bit more. So there is always this timeline split. And you can go back to even my videos in Taurus season in 2023 when I first began to notice this. And I started to refer to it as, the separation of the wheat from the chaff, because a lot of the time, the timeline shifts that seem to occur through Taurus season are really about rebalancing a frequential truth. And they often come for not the beings that we so much of the time we want other people to be put in alignment, right, to in order that they leave us alone, etc. But what I notice about Taurus season is it's really about self-correction, and it's really about taking like real really serious accountability for what we're creating, especially with our own thoughts and our thoughts as they pertain to who we actually are versus the encoding, the imprints, the projections, the programs that have caused us to take on lower identities in order to survive in this false matrix. So Taurus season is always big around those themes. And then, of course, when you're dealing with the sun in a zodiac sign, you're also dealing with the underpinning energies of the sign's sister. So when the sun is in Taurus, you are also dealing with very heavy Scorpio themes, right? So you might notice in Taurus season that people are trying to control your narrative a lot more. They're trying to shut you up because Taurus rules over the throat. But part of that is also because that scorpionic influence begins to highlight people's shadow, and it begins to trigger them a lot more, and it triggers them a lot more. They become a lot more triggered by people who are living in their frequential truth, because it's actually an invitation for them to rise into it also. So Taurus season does kind of kick up all those kinds of energies. But let's talk about why I've been doing so many decrees. So we have the full moon in Scorpio coming up, I think on the 12th or the 13th of May, depending on where you are in the world. And this full moon, what I've been getting from it is that it's really a very big moon of transference. And understand and overstand that when you're dealing with scorpionic themes, Scorpio is the sign of the zodiac through which they do a lot of the black spiritual market transactions. Okay, so this is why through Scorpio season, it's such a big sacrifice season, but there's also a lot of stuff going on etherically and metaphysically behind the scenes where they're literally trading in your gifts, your resources, your codes, specifically those that you have pulled through the 8-8 portal and maybe haven't fully embodied. They are in the background, energetically stealing from you through that Scorpio access window. I won't get fully into that. I've talked about this a lot. I've written about it quite a bit too. But Scorpio season is the height of the false matrix's spiritual black market, where if you've been siphoned, which we all have, if you've been destiny swapped, any of those, that kind of fuckery, this is where they take your divine resources and begin to barter and sell and trade. And indeed, even, in the false matrix, all the ways you're identified. So the certificates that they force us to have and the numbers they force us to have in order to be a part of society. The reason they force us to have that is not necessarily to do with keeping law and order. It's actually to do with markets. Markets that exist here on this realm in real time, but more importantly, the spiritual black market, where once you begin to enter into those false matrix agreements, it's one way you open yourself up into agreement to be harvested. There's a myriad of ways you do that, and I don't want you to fear, because the truth of the matter is, in the false matrix, pretty much everything was aligned for you to constantly give access to your energy, right? So Scorpio is really the height of all of those shenanigans, and so it would make a lot of sense that every full moon we're dealing with a lot of those themes also. But for some reason this year, and I won't say for some reason, I will say that I really do believe that Lilith moving in Scorpio is really putting a fire under this, because with Lilith in Scorpio, Lilith is here. Lilith deals with your persecution story. She hates it when people are shortchanged, stolen from, victimized, hoodwinked. She don't like that. And with Lilith in Scorpio, she's helping us to come into alignment with fighting for our justice to get back what has been stolen from us across timelines and incarnations. And she's not only revealing and exposing as she moves through Scorpio, she's also giving us the divine feminine wisdom that is necessary, that comes from the more darker aspects of the feminine nature, you could say, that help us to rise back. And those tend to be more destructive energies. And I'm not talking about destruction for the purpose of, for the sake of destruction. I'm talking about that destruction that is necessary in the promotion of harmony that the earth herself models before us. The earth herself does not like to be out of balance, and when she is, she sends in destructive energies to clear out what needs to be cleared so harmony can be restored. We call them hurricanes, fires, storms, volcano eruptions, tsunamis and earthquakes, and all these things we're seeing happening very rampantly around the world. These are the destructive forces that the earth utilizes to bring herself back into balance when her seasons and cycles have been bastardized. And in the very same way that the earth models that for us, we are to do that in our own energy fields in the false matrix, and especially love and light spirituality, which is a false matrix program when it's not balanced with the truth of utilizing shadow energy and destruction for the purpose of harmonization. The false matrix and its love and light programming had many of us believing that destruction was bad, but destruction is necessary. There is no rebirth, there is no birthing without destruction. And this is what Scorpio comes to teach us also. So for as long as we were buying that lie and believing we were only supposed to be living in love and light and forgiveness and all, overly identifying with one side of the equation, what we were actually doing was opening ourselves up to be destroyed. And we were also opening ourselves up to self-destruct in very many ways. So all of the decrees I've been churning out recently is because as we come up to this full moon in Scorpio, there seems to be this theme that's rising about transference. And if you know anything about Taurus and Scorpio, then you might know that they rule over the wealth constructs of the earth. Taurus rules over your self-value and the resources you come onto the earth planes with in order to thrive. Not survive, to thrive. You have everything you needed when you came here to thrive. And then through a successive acts of compliance with false matrix rules, societal and familial programming, you gave it away. Kind of like, is it Inanna, the story of Inanna and Eresh Kigal, where she keeps going into the underworld and keeps losing a part of herself, right? She keeps having to strip off a part of herself, right? So it's kind of like that in the false matrix. We don't realize that's what we're doing, but that's exactly what the fuck we're doing. So you come in with all of your resources. From the minute you enter into the plane, they start to harvest you, beginning with your birth certificate. They begin to register you for harvesting. Let's call it what it is. And throughout your life, you get stripped of everything and you don't even realize it. And you not only don't realize it, but you also pay for the privilege with your blood, sweat, and tears of being harvested through the false matrix programs and enslavement templates is really what they are. So this, when you're dealing with Taurus and Scorpio, you are dealing with wealth and resources. So like I said, with Taurus, you're dealing with your personal wealth, your divine net worth, you could say. And in Scorpio, you're dealing with how you take that divine net worth, you contract with other beings for the purpose of multiplying that net worth together to begin the creation of legacy on the earth planes, okay? So Scorpio, you could say, is more connected with the collective financial picture, the collective financial institutions. It does rule over banking, and it doesn't just rule over banking on these planes, which is why it's through Scorpio that a lot of the spiritual black market shenanigans, through the transits in Scorpio, a lot of the spiritual black market shenanigans ensue. But you should also know that Scorpio, as much as it is, the sign through which all of these shenanigans occur, it's also the sign through which the fullness of restoration and reclamation of what has been stolen also occurs, right? So this is what we're dealing with the full moon. It's a very powerful realignment into our true organic timelines and contracts. And as such, there's a large proponent of transference of wealth that is occurring through this full moon in Scorpio, which is why for many of you, many of us in the build up to this full moon, we've been going through it. And we've been going through it because it's so important that we purge ourselves of the fuckery so that we are able to align with what actually wants to come forth in the aftermath of this really huge alignment that, again, is causing, again, a huge timeline shift, as it does every year, but it's even more intensified because of the nature of what we're dealing right now in the ascension process and in the ending of the false matrix. So with that being said, the download I was getting was that spiritual repo service, or the spiritual repo man, is here. The spiritual repo man is here. There are spiritual repo services that are occurring right now. And so to go further with that download, what I was hearing was the repossession of the gifts stolen through false matrix contracts and spiritual black market deals are being restored. Now, when I went into it, I decided just to do a search on what a repo man is, just to give you some official language. This is on a Cambridge Dictionary. A repo man is a person whose job is to repossess something, to take something back from someone who is buying it over a period of time and who cannot continue to make payments. Now, I want to divert for a second and talk about the influx in interesting occurrences in the world of celebrity, from beings just dying out of nowhere mysteriously. And some of them are not very big name stars, but they had their day. down to the noticeability that has been happening with some celebrities no longer, exercising the talents and the gifts they once had, to even the fact that they are utilizing this Taurus season to bring to trial a man who is a Scorpio, who was set up to be a Pied Piper on behalf of the entertainment industry's spiritual black market shenanigans. And in many ways, you could say they've put him on the chopping block because he was such a big resource. And in some way, they are trying to harvest from that to kind of maintain some kind of grounding again, which they won't get back because the time for that is over. But having said all of that, a lot of these beings enter into contracts, and in the beginning, everything looks beautiful. If they entered into a contract because they wanted to be a famous singer and they didn't really have too much of a voice. There's one person I can think of very clearly who many people have said it's very interesting that they grew up with her and she had no sign of any musical inclination, and it's almost like she got her voice overnight. When they sign these contracts with lower consciousnesses and lower frequential entities, and they get rewarded these gifts, think Ursula and Ariel, which was very, very, The Little Mermaid is such a huge analogy of how the false matrix works. But when they get these gifts, they really, their arrogance, because so often these industries like to target people with really low self-esteem and low self-worth who want to walk around in the world and make other people feel as if they're beneath them. And so once these beings with that kind of character are able to access talents that give them fame, celebrity, attention that they've wanted, then what they tend to do, which is quite predictable, is they fall into arrogance. And they often forget what they've signed away. And some of them have signed for certain years. There are certain clauses in their contracts. And they believe at some point that they're invincible and that the gifts that they have sold their souls and other beings' energy for, they believe that those gifts are actually theirs. They start to live under some kind of delusion where they actually believe they are gifted and talented, as opposed to the fact that they entered into a contract whereby they were paying for those gifts for a certain amount of time. And when that contract is over, then if they renegotiate another contract, the price always gets steeper. Hence the reason why in so many of these industries, they start doing unspeakable things to maintain what it is that they signed the preliminary contract for. Now you can see where some people in the spotlight have signed contracts that they can no longer afford. And they are no longer operating at the same level that they were operating on while that contract was active. And that is for a myriad of reasons. For some, it's because that contract has fully expired, and they can't renegotiate, or because of the price, or they can't renegotiate because it's not up for renegotiation. All of their contracts are going to be different. But another thing that you need to also realize is that so many of you have been hacked into by these elite, quote unquote, elite institutions and industries. They've been siphoning your energy, stealing your gifts, and then selling them back to you in your celebrity culture. So the minute you start to wake up and realize who you are, and you don't even have to know exactly who it is, what they have, you don't even have to know any of that. You just have to wake up and decide, fuck this, I'm going to fight for my sovereignty and for my resources and for my destiny. I'm going to start calling everything back. I'm going to start closing down portals. I'm going to start declaring my truth over myself. I'm going to engage in these psychic attack wars where there are these constant onslaught of energies trying to tell me I'm something I'm not, to keep me in a lower mental state and a lower emotional resonance so that I don't rise back into my true frequency so that I can embody what's been stolen from me, I'm going to fight. And the minute that you do that and you begin to engage, yes, oftentimes shit gets worse, but it gets worse because you've posed a huge fucking threat. And at that moment, the opportunity to begin transferring what has been stolen from you, moves into session. And the more that you stand up and you fight and you rise, the more you're able to begin to pull those things that are yours back into your fields. And you might, if you've been doing this for a moment, you might notice that a tug of war ensues energetically. And the tug of war is also necessary for you to fully rise into the power of your truth and to remember who you are so you can properly embody it, not embody it by being fake or asking other energies to lend you things and contracts so that you can fake embody it, but you are actually an organic source-coded being who is being called back into full activation on the earth planes to fully embody naturally and organically what is yours. And this is what this full moon in Scorpio, this is why it's kicking so many of our asses in different ways, because it's time for you to rise into the power and the truth of who you are in your source coded, destined reality, and embody these things. And as you do this, the transference process begins and you start to strip beings of what it is that they've been stealing, and they've been using lower entities in order to keep them in like a false frequential reality in order to fake embody the things they've stolen from you. Now, I want to also be very clear. I wrote this on the community board, but if you didn't read it or you're not on Threads, I'm going to echo it here again today. And that is that when beings engage in this kind of, destiny swapping, destiny reversal, siphoning of your gifts, redirecting your gifts, using you as a conductor for their fear, their karma, and all this other stuff, a conductor and a magnifier and an amplifier of all of their shit, people can do all of those shenanigans, and they're all really distractions when it comes down to it. No one can actually steal your true destiny. They can hack into your fields. They can do all of that stuff. They can try to emulate by reading your Akashics and trying to steal the resources that are open to them. But understand and overstand, there are some things that are completely off limits that they will never touch, for one thing. And then at the end of the day, nobody can actually walk in the fullness and the truth of your destiny organically but you. They can only poorly imitate. Okay. And I want to say that because I've had clients come to me before who felt so desperate, or even if they're not desperate, they've just given up because they really have this belief in this narrative that things have gone too far. They've taken too much. They're attacking me too much. I'll never get it back, yada, yada, yada. And that's not true. I know it feels true. In the midst of the warfare, that's what they want you to believe to be true. And they want you to cling to that storyline and to own it so you continue to manifest, replicate, and reproduce it. But that's not the God-honest truth. The God-honest truth is that your destiny it's like irrefutable. It can't be really passed on to anyone else. It belongs solely to you. So the minute you're able to move past all of those suggestions, projections, spells, and the attacks to try to keep you under, when you're able to rise above that by tapping into and tuning into who you actually are and your soul's endowment, then it's a wrap for them. And please understand and overstand, there is nothing that is even allowed to enter into your fields, even the worst of attacks. There's nothing that you yourself in your own soul's power can't counter, counter, what's the word I'm thinking of? Counterattack. Can't counterattack, because if they're coming at you with a certain degree of power, it's because you hold that degree of power also that neutralizes it. There's no other way they'd be able to enter into your reality with that kind of energy if you don't have the energy to match it, because that's how energetics work in general. We're still dealing with basic physics here. meaning that nothing can really come towards you that's not a match for something that already exists within you internally. Okay, so I wanted to say all of that. Let me go back to my notes. So yes, it feels like the download I was getting is that there's the spiritual repo men are here. The spiritual repo men are here. Repo services have arrived, and it's time for the repossession of the gifts that have been stolen from you through false matrix contracts and spiritual black market deals, to begin to come back to you now, because these beings were using your soul for collateral in order to do that. And if you've been taking back your energy, your truth, if you've just been calling all that shit back and embodying it, that's the most important thing, then they don't have what it is that they need in order to continue to pay for your wares. Okay, so now what's really important is that the transference doesn't happen just because it's supposed to happen. It happens, I'm going to repeat again, by you embodying the frequency that allows for you to hold these things in your energy again. Because I'm going to repeat it again, you are an organic source coded being, which means you don't have to go out there and contract yourself to other lower entities in order to use your gifts. You have every right, but if you are not fully anchored in that truth and that awareness, this is where these entities like to play with your mind and have you entertaining and believing stories and narratives that are ultimately designed to get you to manifest realities and timelines that don't match your ability to embody these gifts, which is why I'm going to say it again. This window leading up to the full moon in Scorpio has been so intense, and which is why I have been writing so many decrees. Now, let me give you a quick, for those of you who don't engage so much on the community board, let me just give you a quick rundown of the decrees I presently have in the shop. Okay, so I have, oh, it's not showing it to me properly. Bear with me 1 second. Let me just pull up the list. Okay. Okay, so here we are. The most recent ones I just posted last night. I did a breaking forced sexual bonds declaration, and that is a runoff on what I was speaking about in the last message I did about those sexual energies that were coming up, right? So I did craft a decree around helping you clear when people are pushing their sexual desires and their lust and all of that, and how it, if you want to know more about that, please, refer to the reading before this one. But I did formulate a declaration, which I find, which is a little bit different than a decree. Decrees, I tend to really go in. Declarations, most of the time, are like 1 to 2 pages max. My decrees can be anywhere from like 4 to 10 to 12 pages. It really depends on the decree. So I have the Breaking Forced Sexual Bonds declaration. I have a timeline correction declaration, which is really powerful to do morning and night in the lead up to this full moon, and until you feel established organically in the embodiment of your time, of your true timelines. It's pretty much a declaration of what it is that you will or you won't accept in terms of how the energies are working around your timelines. So the timeline correction declaration. I have another one that I haven't advertised, but it is available on the Ko-Fi shop. It is very specifically for those of you who are in sacred unions and the karmic energies from past incarnations from time to time kick up. And there are themes that you see that come up in your union that don't really match what you're going through in real time. doesn't necessarily fully make sense. It's often an indication of timeline bleed through from scenarios you two had together from before. So this is a very simple, like, karmic ties declaration and apology that two partners can do. It can be romantic partnership, it can be platonic, but it's pretty much just taking ownership for any way that you may have hurt one another in other timelines, and, you know, kind of acknowledging that, accepting it, and declaring what it is that you want moving forward. So I have a declaration for that on the Ko-Fi shop. I do have, it's called Closing Past Life Karmic Ties with Your Divine Partner declaration. I do have the ones from like a few days ago. So the declaration in motion to officially press charges for spiritual crimes. A cease and desist declaration in motion. This is when you put entities on notice and you, you confront the highest courts for the upholding of cosmological law, justice, balance, and harmony to enforce a cease and desist motion, meaning that you no longer in any way give any of these energies or entities permission to persist with certain deeds and acts. I do have a destiny swap reversal decree. And then older ones, I have also ones that are of note for this cycle: the karmic justice for death magic decree, and breaking ancestral domination and false family covenants decree. There are so many more on there. My decrees are free or by desired donation. So I just wanted to let you know they're there in the build up to the full moon in Scorpio. Utilize, even if you're not using my decrees, create your own, or you can use mine as a template. But what's most important is that you utilize the power of your voice speaking these things into existence, because that's the power of Taurus energy also. Taurus is connected to the neck, it's connected to the throat. Your voice has its own unique frequency and energetic signature that connects you cosmically with all parts of who you actually are. Use your voice to call yourself back into wholeness in this potent time when that energy is magnified. Okay, so decree work right now, whether you use my decrees or whether you craft your own or whether you use them as a template, it doesn't matter. What's important is that you're taking authority over your energy and you're utilizing what's already happening in the collective energy, and you are making your stance, because understand and overstand on a collective level, the opportunity for us to rise into our organic timelines, it's there for us in a way it's never been before. But if we don't take the initiative and the authority to choose those timelines through how it is that we negotiate our energy now, then a lot of the time it's going to take us a lot longer to get there. And for some beings, it's going to go over their heads entirely that this is happening right now. Okay, so let's get into some cards. Another thing that was coming through is that they laughed in your face. They laughed in your face while they watched you struggling. They knew you were in pain, and they were siphoning this pain to pay their debts or to make good on contracts for them to succeed on the material planes at your expense. And these beings, especially the ones who've been doing this shit consciously, there's no more mercy, there's no more time for some of them. And again, this is all going to be in accordance with your ability to rise into your sovereignty and embody these things. Not only talk about them or want them or wish for them, but to take real action towards embodying them. Okay? And making it your own again. I'm going to go into one of my Karmic Chronicles decks. Okay, what do we see? Step up your protection and cleansing work, because some don't know when to stop. So this is, worth noting also, of course, is that because you're dealing with the full moon in Scorpio, you are dealing with heightened levels of attempts to sacrifice. That's just, it is what it is. When you're dealing with these major Scorpio transits, you're dealing with the new moon in Scorpio, the full moon in Scorpio. there is this desire to use that energy to amplify sacrifices. And when you're dealing with full moon, that is an amplification, a magnification of energy. So be aware of this, not to be afraid. You should never be afraid. If you even can begin to know how powerful you are, then you will know that fear has no place in your fields. Fear has no place in your fields. And when it's there, it's often not yours. It's imputed, it's projected, it's deflected. It belongs to other beings. It belongs to certain entities that are seeking to keep you in that fear state for the purpose of harvesting. And it will feel like your own fear, but you're not a fear-based being. So really, that's an illusion that's been amplified and solidified in your reality through programming and repetition. So step up your protection and cleansing work, because some don't know when to stop. Don't eat up their crumbs of compliments. They do this to reel you in for the purpose of diminishing you. So for some of you, you've got people using flattery and being, extra nice to you. And it's kind of there to get you off guard. Is really what it's there to do. So, trust your intuition and trust the patterns is really what I want to say. Trust your intuition. But also, some of you, it's not even down to intuition. You just got to trust the patterning of how you've seen things roll out in general. You don't have to be extreme. You don't have to be like a high priestess to follow a pattern of behavior, although, many of you are high priests and high priestesses, but you get what I'm saying. So we've got another one. This person has left the building, overrun by entities they entertain and refuse to heal from or give up. So a lot of the time when you're dealing with this kind of, this kind of work where people or beings are still trying to thwart you and your path, you're not even dealing with them in their organic truth anymore. You're really not. A lot of the time, they've been completely overrun. And as such, their consciousness is constantly being used, and their consciousness is constantly being used and rented out for the purpose of other entities to kind of live and flow through them, which is why you can't trust a lot of even the ways they approach you, because it's not them. And so it's always an entity running through them. And it's like, entities at that lower level are fully opportunistic, like parasites, and they want to survive by any means, So we also have throat block, attack, or distortion. So like I said before, when you're in Taurus season, one of the most powerful things you can do is activate your voice. Many of you are here to speak. You've been being told to speak. You're afraid to speak. The time for that fear, it's time to face that fear and to understand it for what it is. Because the reality is, many of you, your liberation out of all of these things is going to come through the expression of your voice. Your voice is a tool for your liberation, which is exactly why so many times people try to silence you, ridicule you, make you feel as if what you have to say isn't important. And the minute you start speaking up, you face some kind of backlash. That is an indication that your voice is powerful and that it's needed. And the more you're able to speak up, speak your truth, share what it is you know, and activate other beings in doing so, the more you're actually freeing yourself from the grids and the spells and the contracts that were seeking to silence you and put you in fear in the first place. Many of you believe that things have to get easier or better before you begin to walk in your purpose or before you begin to speak. That's not how it works. Things start to shift as you walk out in faith. That's how it works, okay? Let's continue. Psychic attacks, gossip, groups, gang-ups. So some of you have the psychic attacks you're dealing with have to do with group semantics, family, mobbing, group energy, gossiping, whether it's intentional or not, it doesn't matter. So make sure that at this time, like it says, step up your protection and cleansing work. Make sure you're doing your return to senders. You're clearing your energy, your smoke cleansing, your grounding. You're doing everything you need. Your salt you're salt bathing, you're doing what you have to do in order to maintain your true equilibrium, so that when these energies seek to even begin to enter your field, they are automatically repelled and sent back to their senders and their miscreators. You have access to other dimensions. They trapped and corded you for interdimensional travel access. So in some ways, I feel like this card is coming out not to let you know this. I feel like if you've been rolling with me for a while, you already know this. If you're new, then maybe this is a message for you. But if you've been with me for a moment, then this isn't necessarily news for you. So if this isn't news for you, then what it's indicating to me is that there's something shifting in that dynamic. There's something shifting in what has occurred in terms of how you were corded for interdimensional travel access. Maybe you're getting that access back. Maybe you've been doing the work of removing the cords over and over again until you've reached a point where you are able to travel interdimensionally, beginning in a way that you always had access to, but you were being binded out of. Okay, so maybe in terms of what it is that you're getting back through this full moon in Scorpio, it's the ability and the remembrance of that again. The money and gifts they've given you are how they get you to unconsciously consent to their fuckery. So yeah, just be aware of how beings are grounding in their rituals and their magic by giving you things at this time. Just be aware. There's a person that is roped into your energy who it feels like they're doing something that they're on the fence about. They're presenting themselves to you in such a way where you think their intentions are noble, and it feels like they're having some kind of crisis in conscience because they've been called to do something that isn't noble while pretending that it is. And this might be a person very specifically who is using money and gifts to unconsciously, to get you to unconsciously consent to something that someone else is doing to you. I don't think this person is directly doing it. I feel like they're being used to keep something alive in your fields. So if that's part of your storyline, or you are suspecting this, a card that's coming out is give this person time and space so they can do the right thing because they're on the fence. And often this card will come out because people enter into these kinds of behaviors and then they get to know you. And by knowing you, they're activated, and then they start to rise in frequency, and they begin to realize what they were doing was wrong, and it was lower vibrational, shady, shisty shit, and they decide to turn the corner. So, you always use your own discernment in this, because at the bottom of this deck, we also have, not only will this person not stop, but if given another chance, they would do this again. So, this is a collective pull. So, take it as it resonates. That could also have to do with the person they're doing it on the behalf of. Okay. So when you're dealing with this scorpionic energy, it's here to reshuffle your timelines. A lot of the time it's here to reshuffle and establish you in the timeline that your consciousness is choosing. And in that, you're also going to be dealing with the contracts that have linked you to other beings that have either helped you to solidify the truth of who you are in your organic timelines, or have been agents to keep you out. And so the contracts you have with them are going to come up too. And so a lot of the time in the lead up to this kind of energy, you will have occurrences with people who come into your reality, and they're being tested to see what it is they're going to choose in how the contract either continues or closes. Are they going to perpetuate or continue in some kind of karmic fuckery that ultimately harms themselves and opens you up to harvesting for as long as they're in your energy? Are they going to do that? Or is there some kind of resolution where you're going to be able to move whether it's together or not, but move into higher new earth timelines where that karma can be resolved. This is also why that decree, I feel, is coming up for me to share with you about clearing out the karmic ties and stories you have in divine unions right now, whether those unions are, like I said, romantic or platonic. I'm going to go into the tarot. While I shuffle, let me make another announcement. My 60-minute soul recovery sessions that were on special are sold out, but there are still 90-minute soul recovery sessions on that are available. So presently it's 15% off the regular price. So there are still a few slots at the discounted price for those of you who are interested in having a 90-minute soul recovery session with me. I will place the information for all of that, including the decrees, also in the description box and in the comment section below. I'm doing a 4-card spread. Let's get into it, okay? So at the bottom of the deck, we have strength. We have the Leo card of strength, the number 8 major arcana card. The number 8 major arcana card. So this is speaking about pushing through for liberation. It's talking about pushing through for a shift. It's that energy where everything seems to be building up in a certain way that doesn't feel comfortable. And at that moment, you can either break and think everything's falling apart and fall backwards, or you can break through by holding on and recognizing and realizing that everything is coming up in that way because it's time for it to either go or for you to accept it again. So this is what we have at the bottom of the deck, is the strength card. So it's time to tame the lion. And what we're doing when we're taming the lion is we are taming the ego. And we're not clearing out the ego, silencing the ego. What's the vernacular they like to use in the spirit? Killing the ego deaths. We're not killing any parts of ourselves. Your ego is your protection. It's a protector. Now, it's not supposed to be out of balance, and that occurs when you move from a place of survival and woundedness, but it is there to protect you when you are in harmony with yourself. So the ego is also that part of you that tries to incite unnecessary fear or latches on to fears that are designed to take you into anxieties that actually don't belong to you, even when it feels like they do. But remember, understand and overstand, you're not a fear-based being. You're not a fear-based being. So all of these unnatural fears you have, they're part of the false matrix template. They're part of the projections they need you to be under. They're part of these fear-based entities that are actually kind of destiny swapping or swapping their energy out with yours, giving you all of their fear and making you think that you're afraid when that couldn't be further from the truth. So be aware, right? So the strength card also calls you to bravery. Calls you into bravery. Give me 1 second. Okay, so what do we have in the overarching theme? We have the world. I love this. The world. So you literally are pushing out of something really magnanimous, pushing out. And when you get to the world, and those of you who've been with me for a few years, you know what I say about the world card. It ain't about like a cycle. You're not breaking out of no motherfucking cycle. You're breaking out of eras. You're breaking out of eras of this repetitive shit. of this constant looping that you've been going through for fucking incarnations for some of you, and not even realizing the thread or realizing that it was the case until this lifetime you get the opportunity to wake up and see how it all comes together. This is a huge breakout operation. And there's something about this full moon in Scorpio. The false matrix has been collapsing and falling in on herself for a minute, but there's some kind of blow that's coming through this full moon in Scorpio that's going to bring such revelation to even the sleepiest of motherfuckers. Like, I am here for it. And part of it is because of the closing down of fucking sacrifice eras. I'm talking about the closing down of eras that have supported not only corrupt systems, but corrupt dynasties, bloodlines, institutions, corporations. All that shit is coming down. And I wouldn't be surprised if in the next few months, how I've seen it, like I've had dreams and premonitions of what is occurring between now and October. Let's just say that the world is not going to look anything like it even looks now come October and November of this year, if what I've seen is correct. In the challenge position, we have the Knight of Wands. It's not a time to move too rashly or reactively. But it is a time to utilize this Knight of Wands energy in a way that allows for you to close shit out. So when I say it's not a time to, respond reactively or rashly, it's more like when that energy is born from wounded ego or from fear or from anxiety or from intimidation or even from retaliation, because that's what a lot of this energy is here to do too, retaliation, which is if you're dealing with retaliatory attacks, please do take a look at my cease and desist declaration and the officially charging for spiritual crimes, and see if there's anything in there that's going to help you, that you can, articulate on a daily basis, if not a few times a day. For some of you, it's like you don't even need a full decree. You need to find 1 or 2 or 3 sentences that you're able to cue in on when you need them in these moments to remember, because everything right now is geared to get you in a tizzy, to once again submit to forgetting who you are and to reattach to that which you might not want, but you think you wanted in that moment of desperation because it's so familiar. That's what we're being queued up to kind of do through the nefarious agendas. So have your own mantra, even constantly calling your organic timeline into order and commanding it to be established and materialized is another thing you can do. What you need to be paying attention to, the star. So look at all of this energy. We've got 3 major arcana so far, and the only card we have that's a minor arcana is in the challenge position, which is also showing me that your challenges right now are being amplified through projection and illusion and through experience, meaning that a lot of the challenges you're facing right now, I'm not trying to take away from the fact that they might feel very big, they might circumstantially be very big, but understand and overstand that divinely what's occurring for you to bring you into alignment is so much bigger than what the circumstance is wanting you to believe. Okay, so if you're going through really harsh circumstances, you probably can only begin to imagine on the other side what the truth of that is, what the truth of your divine alignment is, for as long as you, like the Strength card says, you persevere and you move past those illusions. And you remember also that your internal experience of the struggle and suffering is also clouded by the past repetition and the building of the energy in your fields too. So we've got 2 Saturnian energies showing up here. You guys, 1644, as I say that, I've been seeing a lot of 4s this week and a lot of 7s and a lot of 3s. And when you add 3 and 4 together, I guess you get 7 too. So a lot of 3, which is mastery of your timelines and your divine authority over self. 4-4 is establishment, and it's also security. And it also can mean, 4-4 can mean that you're under protection. You're under the protection of the Divine Mother as you go through what you're going through. Okay, and then 7-7 or 777 can mean a few things. It's universally like a number of luck, right? But for me, I look at it a little bit differently. So 7 is a Saturnian number that is connected astrologically to Libra. So just thinking about that Libra Saturn order. Sevens, when you see 7, something is coming into divine order. Either it's coming into divine order or the true order of what is who you are divinely is under threat. And again, take it as it resonates. It's still doing the same thing. It's calling you into divine order, either through grounding yourself deeper into your truth, or, well, same thing, grounding yourself deeper into your truth in order to repel and repulse those energies that seek to take you out. But when 7s start to show up in your reality, it means there's some kind of order and balance and harmony and justice that is either being balanced or is at stake. And 7 is really very much connected to the planet Saturn and divine order, very specifically on the earth. Okay. Guidance. 4 of Cups. 4 of Cups. So this is Cancerian energy. I really, I know this isn't a traditional, might not be a traditional reading of the card, but I'm hearing like, don't sweat the small stuff. And I'm getting like dual messages through here. So on the one hand, you're being told not to sweat the small stuff. Like some of the things that you're being distracted with right now are there to stop you from seeing the grander picture of what is actually happening. Because if they can get you focused on the minutiae of everything that's going wrong, then you miss the grander picture of where you're actually headed because you're so focused on that, right? And then, but on the other hand, there are things that are happening divinely that are very small that you should be taking note of and you should be amplifying. And it's almost like that energy of like, at any given point, any given circumstance, we get to narrate the story from so many different angles, depending on how we choose to see and perceive and feel about the events. So many people can be going through the same thing and everyone have a different outlook. And really that is a reflection of your ability to do that also. So at any given time, we have the ability in the direst of scenarios to change the story around to fit what it is that we want to see, as opposed to what it is that we're going through or what it is that other beings are seeking to inflict upon us. And it's all about a shift in perception. And the shift in perception often comes when you stop looking at everything that's going wrong and start to just choose one thing that's going right. And when you can find one thing that's going right, you're going to start to open the door to a thread of situations that occur where everything starts to go right and you start to get solutions to the very situations that you were lamenting on and focusing on. Because as long as you lament and you focus on something that's causing you anxiety, all you're doing is producing more of the same. But when you're able to hone out and start to find just one thing to be grateful for, you open the door to change the entire trajectory of what it is you're going through. You open the door for that to be magnified, that experience of more things to be grateful for begin to flood your reality, as opposed to more things to be anxious about. So that's what I have for you. I hope that this reading was helpful. I hope it was insightful. I hope that it inspired you. I hope that it strengthened you. Rooted you deeper into your own power and your truth. We need you. We need each other to be strong. We need each other to heal and to take back authority over our own energy, our own stories, our own narratives. We need one another because we need to do this for ourselves so that that energy spreads throughout the collective and the golden age timelines can become more real than the false matrix ones. And we've already tipped the scales for that to happen. And so now it's, the instance of us like being grounded in knowing that so that it can be born materially, because it's already there in the emotional planes, bearing down, ready for the bowels and the waters to break into the material, So, quick thing. I'm so sorry about the message on Monday where at the end in the announcements, everything's kind of went haywire. I apologize. I didn't realize that until after I posted the video. I realized that it wasn't during the message. It was just through the announcement. So that was the silver lining, but I apologize, especially for those of you who might listen with headphones and have, sensitivities around sound. I apologize for that. But I'm going to get going. Please avail yourself of the decrees. I will be posting a few more this weekend. Also, I will let you know about all of that on the community board. If you would like to book a soul recovery session with me, I will put the information for that in the description box below. If you would like to donate to the channel and support my work with the collective, you can do that. I'll add the payment links in the description box and comment section below also. I thank you so much for all the ways that you contribute and you support me. If you'd like to connect with me on a more daily basis, you can do so on my platform, solara.xyz. This is where you can get your daily alchemy message every day. It comes through into your inbox every day for free as soon as you sign up to receive that newsletter through solara.xyz. And if you choose to join another membership tier, you have access to other writing and audio messages that I publish on the daily. Pretty much I'm I'm there like publishing pretty much like 5 to 6 days a week outside also of the daily alchemy messages. So those of you who also support me on my other channel, Solara Rises, I will be back with the full moon in Scorpio message TAROTSTROLOGY Ascension report this weekend. I apologize, I didn't make it for the new moon in Taurus. It wiped me the fuck out. But we'll get into some of what the new moon in Taurus was showing also, because the new moon in Taurus was that 7 degree energy also. So we already know that things are being put back into alignment, and very specifically when it comes to do with assets. Remember that word, assets, and think about it on all levels, whether they're digital, material, soul, emotional, mental, spiritual, it don't matter. Everything's being called back into order. Okay, so the spiritual repo man, he is here. Okay, and some of you, I was just, having a conversation a few hours ago, and I was saying some of you guys are the spiritual repo man too. You be working these jobs in your multidimensional reality, not even aware that you're also enacting this, in other realms. So thank you to those of you who are. Okay, so I'll see you again soon. Take care.